Thank you for coming back and enjoying the second part of this origin story. So, just to recap, I grew up in Canada, I have an incredible family, found myself going through transitions at various stages of my life, had some really incredible relationships, some fairly tumultuous relationships, and really started to get to know myself within my 20s. I would say I had my first experience of dark night of the soul just barely when I first moved out. I would say around 23, 24. And then just the hints of it, and I didn't fully know what it was. And then I had my next expression of dark night of the soul after giving birth to my first son. So going back into that transition one more time, I kind of thought it was a one-time deal, which, I'm sure some of you, when you start to go through these phases and these transformations and cycles, you think, no, this is a big one. This is good. One and done. No. For me, at least, that was not the case. So again, honoring my son's father and his incredible effort and the time we spent together, I want to say there have been so many times that I see fondly, so many times he worked hard for our family, so many times we shared laughs, so many times we cried, so many times we held each other, so many times we felt such reverence for the incredible parts about being together. And so that's why I say this with the perspective I have now, because I didn't always have this perspective. I didn't always see it this way. And it's been a real gift. Hindsight has been a real gift in being able to reflect on this. So, jumping back into it, as I said, ending my marriage completed after 6 years of partnership, the waves of emotion and transformation that I experienced after divorce transition crashed over me. I felt like I was leveled to the floor. Every step felt both extremely vulnerable and equally sacred. I knew this was the path I had to follow. And I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, and something inside that was deeper than I thought was moving me. This was my knowing. My knowing was moving me step by step by step into the unknown. If I can paint you a visual picture, it is black around me. Everything is dark. And all I can see is one little lily pad coming up and taking a step. And the next lily pad coming up and taking a step. My vision was somewhat limited, and I could only see as far as I was willing to walk. So as I said, it felt very vulnerable, but I was walking with my knowing. So it was a whole different version. I wasn't walking with my future vision and my 40,000 foot conceptual perception. I was walking with my inner knowing. Change had already occurred on an energetic level. My body was now asking me to trust the process of manifestation. I reached a point where I could no longer feel connection with myself and therefore my soul. I was living so externally, there was not much of an energy exchange with my innate and intuitive aspects, or my soul, my spirit. I had to refine this relationship. I had shut it off, shut it down for energy conservation, for self-preservation, for complete lack of awareness. But this deeper knowingness was starting to bud up inside me and starting to sprout. And I didn't necessarily honor the existence of source, creator in my teens. I feel like I always did, but I had a self-proclaimed disbelief in God for a little bit of time. And this was like a resurgence of finding this. I come to this with humility. I understand how shocking or how harsh it might seem to take on an atheist perspective. If you're somebody who's deeply spiritual, I understand. And I had to find that. I had to go back and dig really deep and reclaim myself. I took a big risk in reclaiming my life. But this path led me to my soul. It connected me with my spirit. And it wasn't without the dark night of the soul. I had to walk through that. I had to walk through the darkness and trust in every step. So you might not be familiar with what the dark night of the soul is, but sit with the concept. It'll open itself up to you. And if you still feel a little fuzzy on what it means, wiki it. It might not even be something that resonates with you, but for me, it very much characterized what I went through. So to travel from atheism to apathy, walk with me here. Complete disconnect, depression, sleep deprivation, through deep cynicism, to apathy and what the fuck is it all for, to frustration and anger and anxiety, turned into neutrality, and then calm fondness and gratitude. The gratitude, I just want to say the gratitude that I was able to really lean into. The joy, the bliss, the fall to your knees reverence, and I'll tell you, it happened more than once. More than once have I fallen to my knees in reverence for what my life is and the fact that I always get to start again and I always get to get up again. And now I have the perspective where I know this is part of it, which helps so much. These were my dance steps. And sometimes I would travel back down that scale of experience, right back down to anger, anxiety, frustration, even cynicism. Talk about where we are right now in life in the general global scheme. I've felt cynicism for what's going on, but I also have this huge hope because I know we're going somewhere. I know where this leads. You don't go through the dark night of the soul and you don't go through all these heavier aspects without the incredible rewards and gifts that come from it. So I believe collectively, we got one hell of a party to have at some point. We're going to have a celebration. Absolutely. So from this experience, this dark night of the soul, this is what delivers the fertile soil for hope to spring from. I came back to my body and my life even deeper than before. I had tapped the well inside. And for me, that well was slow and it bubbled up. It was a bubbling brook, if you will. It wasn't a full fire hydrant. A few months after completing the completion of my marriage, after going through that transition, I was broken up by the shift and I was faced with new choices. This echoes my revenge success, but from a different place. This wasn't about revenge. This was from a place of survival mixed with faith, the halfway in between. So at this time, my fuel was different. Survival, faith. And this was a trust fall into the faith that I could handle the next chapter and the growth that came with it. So I decided that graduate school was next on my horizon, perhaps even a PhD, and to work at a university. These were my new dreams. I had reached the dreams I had previously set, going to university, becoming an adult, whatever the heck that meant, having kids, and just doing the things that were on the line of what you were meant to do to get to the places you wanted to get to. I hadn't developed a fondness for the journey. At that point, I was still very much destination driven. So I decided graduate school was next. I enjoyed going back to school. I had more bandwidth for the information and I was hungry to learn. I was hungry to be stimulated. It was so provocative. I had a thing for critical theory. I was so excited to find the things that I loved again. I loved reading. I loved going for walks in nature. I found there were so many things I'd suppressed during my relationship. I was so compacted during my marriage and sort of focused, singular focused and tight that I didn't remember the things that made me who I was before that. And I couldn't get back to that feeling and the sense of lightness other than through the role of being a mom. I wasn't finding my energy and my lightness and my thriving in my version of Ashley outside of being a mom. So I love critical theory. This really brought to life some of the things that I'd been feeling around, how we structure society, what I'd signed up for. Is this really for the people, by the people? I really got into that, but it was heavy, and at times I felt apathetic. I saw the challenges we were facing and thought, how the heck are we ever going to reclaim an experience of humanity that wasn't centered on work, competition, achievement, money? All of these things I started to look at as such empty pursuits. So this heaviness had me, again, looking at the world from a really critical lens. And when you're bathing in critical energy, of course it's going to start to feel very heavy. I was ready for more connection with higher self. I realized that what was missing was the faith, the hope, the optimism, the benevolent, unconditional love that I hungered for, that I knew was part of this experience that I wasn't able to feel for some reason. So I longed for this deeper connection with those aspects of me that were fragmented off by trauma. I longed for the version of me in high school that was so hot, that was so on fire, that just really could blow through doors. I longed for the version of me that was in her 20s that's just started to find herself and really dreamed of that Sex and the City lifestyle. I longed for those aspects of me that didn't necessarily identify with anything, but felt like an energy of just a robust, thick, juicy energy of exuberance. So I longed to be connected, to be curious. I longed for whimsical, those innocent parts of me, the most tender love. I missed the part of me that could walk on fire for a whole day, stone cold, that fire and ice. She was so strong. She was not controlled. I miss that version of me. For any of you that are into astrology, my sun is in Capricorn, but conjunct Lilith. So if that gives you any idea of what I had to rein in here. I missed the version of me that got to put my hands on someone and send energy of love right into their cells, through their skin. I'm a very sensual person. I'd missed being able to send my sensual, energetic love into someone. But during this time, I learned and listened attentively. I became a student of my inner teacher. Consciously. I opened up to the tutor inside, the teacher inside, my inner guidance system. I hadn't realized it yet, but I'd opened up to this aspect. I learned what I liked, what I wanted. I healed. I laughed and laughed and laughed and danced and laughed some more. And I'm so thankful for the group of people who were around me during that transition that really helped me inject new life back into myself. My marriage completed just before my 30th birthday. Talk about Saturn return. There are many women with me during this more refined second coming of my 20s. I appreciate you so much. Yearbook style, you know who you are. SW, DL, SW, ER, JB, DJ, NN, JS, AC, JZ, KD, CT. You're all there for me when I felt like I was redefining everything about my life. When I felt the pull to myself, when I felt this pull to go out there in the wild dating world. Just to give you a perspective, Tinder was just a thing, just starting out, just a tiny little thing. I stayed very close to my comfort zone. For me, it was very vulnerable dating as a mother. I had things stabilized around me, and I was so cautious not to throw anything out of balance. My pH was on lock, and I did not want to add anything that was going to mix stuff up. I had a history of falling fast because I like how it feels, and I really wanted to be cautious. I went on a few dates and connected with a few men. Each one of them had something energetically loving about them. They were genuinely kind in the core. And because of them, I began to trust opening that part of myself up again. With it, the transformation. This time, I was witnessing it more consciously. I watched myself slowly begin to open up, like a butterfly leaving the chrysalis. I began to learn about manifestation, form many new perspectives. From strictly creative perspectives, I learned about manifestation from my own experience, from the spiritual communities, from esoteric and ancient traditions around manifestation. I believe I manifested my current timeline experience, and it started when I began to understand the dark night of the soul and the subsequent journey back to source that follows. I started journaling. I started following the moon. I started honoring my cycles. After dating, I reconnected with someone in my social circle. His name is Steven, with a PH, not Stefan. I had in that time finished school, reinvigorated my excitement to focus on my career, and this time I had my sights set on a professor role, the role of professor. I had taken a contract within the government while figuring out my strategy, and I'd been TAing along with some brilliant professors at Laurier. At points, I felt as though I wasn't going to be able to make it happen. I started to settle into a permanent government job in an office, and the pension and the comfort that came with this. I started to sort of settle. And you know this feeling of settle. You know the energy of settle. So I'll just leave that right there. This was something that did not appeal to my body or my spirit. I would call my Steven from work and tell him how painful I was finding it to not follow my dreams, like holding on to 2 curling irons that were plugged in. My understanding of energy at this point did not land in terms of manifestation. I understood it, but was only at the beginning. My contract was extended every 6 months or so, and I knew it was going to be. That's the level of understanding I had with manifestation. I knew that it was going to be extended, but I also knew when it was my last contract and it wouldn't be extended. I was worried, but then I was also motivated by need. Again, the fuel that fires this was a little bit by need still, but I was leaving worry behind more and more. I started putting my energy into this professor role. I did this in little ways, like researching, speaking about it to other people, and through that energy investment and excitement and just putting energy into it, whatever that looked like, doodling, drawing, engaging with it, meditating on it, like really visualizing it. Having these conversations was key. I ended up learning about a connection through one of my managers. I was so excited. I was presented a door, and I stepped through it. I met with a dean who became a mentor, and during my first few years, I delivered over 10 courses, created 4 courses from scratch, worked within both business and liberal studies, completed a major program review, and administered placement programs with students, on top of the regular marking schedule of 1,200 plus assignments per term. I've spoken on university panels, corporate events. I feel like I'd accomplished so much of what I had set out to, but I was drained and wanting something more refined and more aligned with my energy path. There was so much about this job that I loved, but I was starting to feel burnout. As I was starting to feel burnout, I couldn't vision leaving, but I also didn't have the energy to launch something new. This familiar strategy of settling had started to come up again, along with a permanent professor role. What a test. Within the program, I had done the major program review for and had already taught 2/3 of the courses within this program. I knew this program in and out. I loved it. It was in community and social work. But I had to ask myself, do I want a full-time professor role? This is what I thought I wanted, and now I'm here going for the interview, and is this what I want? It seemed secure, like the government job. It was exciting and interesting, with flexible hours and title esteem. I worked with incredible teams and mentors who trusted me to create. The other professors and associates that I got to work with were so incredible. I was still being fed by this, but there was a part of me that was finding it very overwhelming to keep up with. My students were my very, very most favorite part. They were the direct souls I was there to serve. They were the mission. To flip their switches, I wasn't sure how, or really what I was switching on other than them, than their light. I just knew that's what I was there for, to switch on their light, their spark. I loved seeing them smile, come alive, share, care about engaging with learning. I love discussing things with them, opening perspectives, helping them understand concepts that unlock deeper meaning or create possibility and hope. I loved empowering them to understand that they were in the driver's seat and that adulting wasn't so scary. And it was such an exciting point in their lives. They're at their launch point. They're leaping off. My biggest, deepest message was about our shared humanity and how compassion is an integral part of reconciliation and community. That was the message I wanted to share. After a few cycles of depression lasting few weeks to a few months, and anxiety that could bring on convulsions like ice water down your spinal column channel. Oof, the pressure, the long hours marking in bed till 3 a.m, and the strikes were starting to press on all the things I loved about teaching and guiding. I was being called into change again. This was not sustainable, especially when I realized I had been calling in a new creation, and some of my energy was spent gestating that new creation that I was pregnant with. I was shocked and not shocked to find out that I did not get the permanent position. If you know me and how much I relate things to what is meant for you will not pass you, and your energy really enters the door before you do, then you realize that I came to this fairly quickly. I released any feelings of inadequacy, and it was only agitation to my ego at first. When I assessed my compatibility with the role, I felt as though I wouldn't be in it for the long haul, as I could already feel the familiar pull in a new direction. It was pleasant to think that the person who would get the position was the exact right person. My faith was growing and my energy was already returning to prepare me for the next phase of life. I say phase because I feel that I've shifted into a new octave of life. And every time I shift, I am more aware of all the steps. I am able to co-create with the changes. I can enjoy them and work with them. I can enjoy times of rest and integration and levels that I didn't even realize were available. I couldn't enjoy rest before. I couldn't enjoy celebration and integration. And now I'm feeling this ability to ride those and to use them for the energy that they're here for. So I've decided to show up fully to life, to follow my inner guidance, and to release the pessimism, skepticism to the degree that I'm able, and the impatience when I can. Since following the call inward, I've been able to engage with life at a new level that is so much more engaged, creative, exciting, and peaceful. This is the result of feeling my connection to self, soul, spirit, and following my inner guidance. I enjoy my life more because I have tapped my inner well. I will never go thirsty. I'm learning about myself all the time, and I'm learning from my inner wisdom and feeling in love with myself. This is so key. I feel so completely in love with myself and my life that I feel as though that I have the energy to create completely new things, complete from a whole new visionary perspective. I've been able to manifest my dream home, create a wonderful family dynamic that I envisioned and trusted in. I have time freedom and the ability to access love and compassion on deeper levels. I see my path, my theme, and I trust it. I am satisfied. I am enticed. And I'm in love with my life. And I hope that you can see yourself in all or parts of this story. Thank you for taking the time. This current chapter feels so exciting and refreshing. I feel more alive than I have in a very long time. I feel very aligned in my path and in my purpose. I know why I'm here. And I know who I am. And this has been really a homecoming. And there have been a few people that I've met now in my life that I can say I align with so very much. These are incredible, driven people. And this leg of my journey has been fortified by their presence in my life. NS, TJ, LH, there are many of you. And I can't wait to continue growing in my relationships and my network with such incredible people. You've added such richness to my current life. And we're just a match. JG as well. I just had to yell that one in there. I just texted her this afternoon and I just wanted to shout that out. And TJ, you're something else. I was about to swear, but you're something else. I love you. I love your strength. And you're just such a fucking cheerleader. You're such a good woman. Anyway, thank you so much. I feel so fortunate to be able to have been on the journey I've been on. And I feel even more fortunate to have had the hindsight to reflect on these transitions and really mine the gold out of every experience I've been blessed with. I know that it's not always going to feel like I'm at the high or the peak of my roller coaster ride, but knowing that these are longer cycles and all transitions and that change is always here for us, I feel more content when those dips, lows, or challenges do come. I feel more resilient to ride the storm. I look at depression completely differently now. I see the dark night of the soul as a gift and a step on my path. Thank you for joining me on this 2-part series of my origin story. If you enjoyed it, please find a way to rate the podcast. If you felt like you wanted to share this with someone that you think it might benefit, by all means do. If you're looking to connect up with me, you can find me on the Femmyst on Instagram or on my website, ashleyjowett.com. If you want to work with me, please do so. Get in touch. If you just want to connect as humans as well, great idea. Thank you for taking your time, your precious time to hear this, and be well. Peace and love. Thank you.